A man lost the key to his own house and ended up searching all night in the town square, right beneath the only streetlight. Neighbors came over to help him, but no one imagined the truth. The key had not been lost there, but in a dark corner within himself. This is the story of how someone can spend an entire life searching outside for what was broken inside, and how one simple night changed forever the way he looked at himself. In a small desert-surrounded town lived Karim, a man in his 40s, with tired eyes, but an easy smile. Everyone knew him because he was always joking in the market and seemed to take life lightly. He had a modest house, a steady job, and friends who cared about him. From the outside, anyone would have said he was fine. But inside, Karim carried a quiet sense of emptiness he could not explain and preferred to ignore. That night, everything began with an apparently insignificant oversight. Karim arrived home late after a gathering with friends in the square. He reached into his pocket to take out his keys and discovered they were not there. He checked the other pocket, the coat pouch, the sandals he had taken off for a moment. Nothing. A small chill ran down his spine. Without the key, he could not get in. And the last thing he wanted was to feel again the loneliness that awaited him behind the door. He decided to retrace his steps. He walked to the corner, looked at the dusty ground, checked the steps of the shop where he had stopped to talk. Finally, he reached the central square, lit only by an old yellowish street lamp that cast a circle of light in the middle of the night. "It must have fallen here," he murmured, more to convince himself than out of true certainty. He bent down and began to search anxiously for every glimmer among the stones. As he scanned the ground, two young men passing by stopped. "Sir, did you lose something?" one of them asked. Karim looked up with a desperate expression. "Yes, my key. Without it, I can't get into my house." The young men, with good intentions, joined the search. Minutes later, a neighbor returning from the night market joined them, and little by little several curious onlookers formed a small circle beneath the light. Everyone searched carefully, but no one found anything. Amid the murmurs, one of the neighbors asked sincerely, "Karim, are you sure you lost it here?" He hesitated for a moment, then nodded quickly, like someone who does not want to open an uncomfortable door. "There's light here. I can see here." Although his voice sounded firm, inside he felt a growing unease. Every second that passed without finding anything made the weight in his chest increase, as if the night wanted to reveal something he was avoiding. The minutes dragged on. People began to grow restless, as the street lamp flickered and the breeze lifted dust that made the search harder. An older woman, with a wisdom that radiated calm, approached Karim and looked at him closely. "Son, are you sure this is the last place you saw your key?" A simple question, but sharp. Karim swallowed. He knew the answer, and he also knew how much he avoided admitting it. With a sigh that scraped his chest, he lowered his gaze. "The truth is, no. I think I lost it inside my house." A tense silence fell over the group. Those present exchanged confused looks. "Then, why are we looking for it out here?" someone asked. Karim felt his hands begin to tremble slightly. "Because out here there is light, and inside it's dark. And I don't want to go into that place without knowing what I might find." No one spoke, but some understood more than he expected. And that was when the murmur of the town began. That echo that always reflects what people think without saying it outright. "How is he going to find something in a place where he didn't lose it?" a young man said. "Maybe he doesn't want to admit what's obvious," another whispered. Though they didn't mean harm, those words struck a sensitive nerve. Karim felt they were speaking not only about the key, but about everything he had avoided facing for years. The older woman looked at him again, gently. "Sometimes we search outside because it's easier than looking within. But what is lost in the darkness can only be recovered by going in there. Her voice was not a reproach, it was an invitation. Karim felt a knot in his throat. Suddenly the lit square no longer felt so kind, and the door to his home, though dark, seemed to call him with a truth he had ignored for too long. Was he ready to enter? Karim thanked everyone and, with slow steps, began to walk toward his house. Each street lamp he left behind deepened the silence around him. He reached the door and looked at it, as if it were a mirror. He knew that behind that wood awaited not only the darkness of the hallway, but his own. Thoughts he had avoided, wounds he had never tended, emotions he had pretended not to feel. For the first time in a long while, he did not want to run. He lit a small oil lamp he kept by the entrance. Its faint light barely reached a couple of meters, but it was enough to begin. He took a deep breath. "If the key is here, I'll find it," he murmured. He walked slowly, like someone entering a silent temple. Every corner seemed to speak to him. Piles of unfolded clothes, papers he had avoided organizing, memories pushed aside. It wasn't just physical clutter. It was the reflection of an inner world asking for attention. As he moved forward, a thought struck him like an echo. For months he had felt disconnected from himself. He had lost his calm, his motivation, even clarity about what he wanted. And instead of stopping to listen to himself, he filled his days with noise, work, jokes, shallow conversations. Maybe I didn't lose a key, he thought. Maybe I lost a part of myself. That realization was a small tremor, the first microclimax of a truth that wanted to awaken. He reached the small dining area. The table was covered with objects in no order, remnants of days when he preferred to ignore his inner life rather than face it. He lifted an old notebook, and beneath it he saw something tiny, bright, familiar. The key. There it was, fallen in the dimness, exactly where he had feared to search. Karim picked it up with trembling hands. "I found it right where I least wanted to look," he said softly, feeling an invisible layer of self-deception dissolve. But recovering the key did not fill him with immediate relief. On the contrary, it opened a new dilemma within him. If something as simple as a key could be lost by avoiding the darkness, how many other things had he let slip away in his life by refusing to look inside? How many decisions had he made from the comfort of external light, without examining what his heart truly needed? The question felt deep, almost uncomfortable, like a call he could no longer ignore. With the key in his hand, Karim sat down on a chair and rested his elbows on his knees. The house, once silent, now felt like a space breathing alongside him. He understood that for years he had been living outwardly, seeking approval, distractions, goals that were not his own. He had illuminated everything external while leaving his inner world in twilight. And in that neglect, little by little, he had lost clarity, peace, and purpose. It wasn't a lost key. It was a forgotten direction. A thought pierced him like a gentle bolt of lightning. I can't keep searching outside for what I'm missing inside. That simple yet powerful sentence forced him to look around. Every dark corner represented a part of himself he had avoided. Unfinished conversations, stored emotions, postponed decisions. Suddenly, finding the key was no longer the ending, but the beginning of a process that felt larger than him. Something was changing within. As he moved through his home, he began to pick up a few objects, not for order, but for meaning. Each item carried a story he had ignored for far too long. An unopened letter, an old drawing, a wrinkled photograph. Everything spoke of moments when Karim chose to look outward instead of acknowledging what he felt. That realization weighed on him, but it also brought light. It was a micro peak of emotion, understanding that avoiding himself had been his greatest loss. Outside, the town kept talking. Some said, Karim found the key, that's good. Others remarked, I don't know why he was searching where it wasn't. But no one imagined what that night meant to him. From the window, Karim heard those comments without annoyance. For the first time, he understood that other people's opinions did not fill his emptiness or answer his questions. Everything he had sought outside faded before the evidence. The real work was internal. It was then that a small fear appeared, gentle but steady. What would he do now with what he had discovered? Finding the key forced him to face a deeper truth. He had lived a long time without looking at his own shadows. And though that idea unsettled him, it also strengthened him. If I found this in the darkness, he thought, maybe I can find myself too. That thought was a mini-climax, a turn that transformed anguish into direction. Karim decided to open the windows to let some fresh air in. The breeze gently stirred the curtains, and with it, a new feeling moved through the house. It was not complete relief, but it was a beginning. Darkness doesn't disappear by avoiding it, he murmured. It disappears when you start turning on small lights. And that night, the first light he turned on was honesty with himself. For the first time, he accepted that he needed order, calm, and space to truly listen to himself. He poured himself some tea and sat on the floor, something he hadn't done since he was young. He looked at the key between his fingers. That simple object had become an unexpected symbol. It was not just a tool to open a door, but proof that many times we look for solutions in the comfortable, well-lit, familiar place. Even when we know the answer lies in a deeper corner, we avoid visiting. That reflection sent a shiver through him. He then remembered a phrase his father used to repeat. What you don't examine within, sooner or later controls you from the outside. Karim had never taken it seriously, but that night it made sense. His inner disorder had affected his relationships, his mood, his motivation. He had tried to fix it by changing external things, jobs, friends, routines, without realizing that he was searching under a streetlight for what had been lost in another room. This truth became a major emotional peak. With a long sigh, he decided he could no longer run from himself. He stood up, took paper and pencil, and began to write everything he had ignored for years. Fears, forgotten goals, emotions he had never expressed, small wounds still waiting for attention. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. And as he wrote, he understood something crucial. Entering the darkness was not punishing himself, but rescuing himself. There, in what we avoid, often lies the clarity we so deeply long for. Before going to sleep, Karim placed the key on the table, took a deep breath, and said softly, "What is lost inside is recovered by going in there." That night he understood that no one finds peace by searching in the wrong place. True transformation begins when we stop illuminating the outside and turn on a light within. From that day on, whenever life felt confusing, Karim remembered the lesson. Do not search outside for what can only be found within you.